An opposition move in Trinidad to block the sale of a former state refinery to a union-owned company. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Tuesday, October 22nd. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. A High Court judge will on Thursday begin hearing arguments in a move that, if successful, will temporarily block the sale of the refinery of former state-owned oil company Petrotrin to a company backed by the Oilfield Workers Trade Union. The main opposition United National Congress, UNC, has raised concerns about the sale to preferred bidder Patriotic Energies and Technologies Company Limited, which is wholly owned by the union. And in an injunction application filed in the High Court on Monday, former UNC Senator Wayne Sturge, through his legal team, headed by former UNC Senator Gerald Ramdeen, has asked the court to order Chairman of the Joint Select Committee on Energy, Finance Minister Com Imbert, to convene a meeting of the committee. The application also asks the court to give directions to hold the government, the executive and the cabinet accountable to Parliament for decisions made regarding the sale of the refinery. According to Sturge, the decisions were taken in an atmosphere of secrecy and mystery, and he said the decision to not convene a meeting of the Joint Select Committee on Energy for the past 19 months was deliberate and intentional on Minister Imbert's part, especially since as finance minister he would have been intimately involved in the decisions taken on the refinery. Sturge argues that, quote, the decision was designed to ensure that the committee would be unable to discharge its functions during the most critical time in the history of the energy sector of our country, when irreversible decisions were being made by the government with respect to the patrimony of our country, end quote. He argued that the Joint Select Committee had the Joint Select Committee been allowed to discharge its constitutional function, the decisions of Imbert and the Cabinet would have been subject to examination by the committee. But as that was not the case, Sturge says the country is now forced to accept the information that the government, the Cabinet and the executive placed in the public domain, justifying the decisions on the sale. Dominica's opposition leader Lennox Linton says he has written to Police Commissioner Daniel Carbon requesting an investigation into attempts to implicate him in criminal activity. Linton told a news conference on Monday that he had filed an official complaint last week after CCTV footage at his home showed two Caucasian men had visited his house to frame him. The United Workers' Party, UWP, has claimed their investigations uncovered evidence that the men are British nationals who were paid to carry out mischief during the election period. Reading from the October 18th letter he sent to Commissioner Carbon, the opposition leader charged that the men had trespassed on his property with the intent of planting false evidence of high crimes and misdemeanors against him.
They made 3 separate attempts to pretend that a black travel bag allegedly containing $1 million was left outside my door, and on each of the 3 occasions, the said black travel bag, the contents of which were never revealed, was taken away by the perpetrators of the criminal conspiracy. No bag was left on my premises on May 19, 2019.
Linton suggested to Commissioner Carbon that at the very minimum, the duo should be investigated and charged with criminal trespass and conspiracy with those who instructed, engaged or facilitated them to commit public mischief. And he said anything less would be tantamount to dereliction of duty by the Dominica Police Force. The opposition leader said he's also seeking President Charles Saverin's intervention.
I'm in the process of writing to the President of the Commonwealth of Dominica, because on the 30th of September, we wrote to the President and delivered that letter to the President's home, to the President's residence on High Street. Not High Street, Victoria Street, sorry. The President has since replied, basically asking for evidence of what the issues we addressed in the letter. So sometime later this week, we are going back to the President with evidence of what we spoke about. He said once he sees the evidence, he'll be willing to facilitate a meeting, a sit-down meeting with us, and hopefully to engage with the government on what's going down.
The Bahamas government says it will not be pressured by the United Nations to suspend deportation of Haitians in the wake of the deadly Hurricane Dorian. Many undocumented Haitians were living in Abaco, which the monster storm pounded last month before going on to cause more devastation in Grand Bahama. The Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights earlier this month asked that those affected not be repatriated for now. But the government is standing by its decision, as we hear in this report from Clint Watson of Eyewitness News.
In a statement last night, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs noted that the Bahamas made the painstaking but necessary and conscientious decision after temporarily suspending immigration laws to reinstate them. The statement says all illegal migrants removed from the Bahamas were done so in compliance with the statute laws of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas in accordance with the Immigration Act, consistent with the international standards of the rule of law and in compliance with international human rights norms and standards. The government stating that there was adherence to all due processes and the requisite procedures for proper documentation via captured biometrics were followed to determine every individual's constitutional right to reside lawfully in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Persons found wanting and in violation of the Immigration Act were lawfully removed in accordance with the requisite court orders. The statement concluded that the international community is assured the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas is a country that adheres strictly to the rule of law, both locally and internationally, especially with respect to the rights of every man, woman, and child in its jurisdiction. Any person entitled to be in the Bahamas legally will be afforded every fundamental right under its statute laws. In the same vein, any person in violation of the Immigration Act will be dealt with in accordance with the statute laws of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Meantime, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis says Bahamians who sought refuge in the United States after Hurricane Dorian's passage should now return home to help in the rebuilding process.
Those Bahamians must now return back because the U.S. would have given them a certain length of time, and many of them would be accommodated. If they're from Abaco, would be accommodated in the family relief centers that we're constructing, and similarly in Grand Bahama. But accommodations are being made for them to return home because they're needed to help rebuild Bahamas.
And staying in the Bahamas, a High Court judge has ruled that a strike by doctors in August was unlawful, and it has prohibited them from engaging in any form of industrial action over the payment of outstanding holiday pay. We get the details of the ruling in this report.
Doctors have been restrained from organizing its members to strike, refuse to work, leave their employment, or participate in any other form of industrial action. This according to a ruling handed down by Justice Ian Winder. The union was attempting to have a previous injunction lifted, which halted their original strike action back in August. The union complained that the applicants, which includes 5 government agencies, referred to the wrong trade dispute in the affidavit of John Pinder. However, Justice Winder ruled that it was clearly an error, which Pinder sought to clear up in his later affidavit. The union also complained that the applicants misrepresented that the entire bargaining unit withdrew their labor. However, Justice Winder said that the applicant rightly pointed out that while some services were carried out by the junior doctors during the strike, the majority of junior doctors withdrew their labor. The union lastly noted that the applicants failed to advise the court that there was an agreement entered into with the Prime Minister of the Bahamas and the union. However, Justice Winder explained that BDU counsel Obi Ferguson conceded that there was no enforceable agreement reached with the Prime Minister. Overall, Justice Winder expressed that he was not satisfied that there was a failure to be full and frank on the part of the applicants, and none of the union's complaints were sufficiently material. Ferguson objected to the ruling and detailed that the tribunal has no power to resolve this dispute. However, Justice Winder said that this suggestion is untenable and that the union is well equipped to deal with such a claim, as it is simply about money claimed to be owed to its members for unpaid holiday. Ferguson spoke with reporters outside of court today following the ruling, saying that this matter is not over yet.
Certainly, I'm inclined to discuss with them going elsewhere to have this matter resolved. Because what it means now, the 30-something unions that are registered in the Bahamas, when they take a strike vote, as soon as they take a strike vote and they decide to go and strike, the minister says it's not in the best interest or whatever have you, and the matter is resolved, and I'm going to refer it to the tribunal. So when you go to the tribunal, what do you get? What is the result? 0. And that cannot be in the best interests of a country. That cannot be in the best interests of industrial relations in the Bahamas. In other words, it's regressive.
Still to come, a new court in Guyana to focus on rehabilitating rather than incarcerating drug offenders. The details after the break. Stay with us.
When you think of what we went through with Hurricane Irma, you had to be able to recognize what are the things we need to do to cope with the aftermath. The psychological trauma, to me, is probably the most telling on a lot of people.
Preparedness is the key. So when people are prepared, when people have what their resources in terms of how they can cope with the disaster, they're better able to be able to return to their normal life. They're better able to make decisions that are informed for themselves and for their family, and then for their community. Be ready. Look, listen, and link.
Astronomers have discovered evidence of the first light from some of the first stars among the farthest and oldest physical objects in the universe. Using a simple radio antenna and a great deal of careful measurement, they have effectively seen farther back than even the Hubble Space Telescope. These stars emerged from the smoldering embers of the Big Bang. They lit the sky for the first time, and the early cosmos began to transform from an era of pitch black.
Guyana has opened a new court that will seek to offer rehabilitation services to drug users rather than incarceration. The government says the first ever drug treatment court will contribute to the effective reintegration of nonviolent drug offenders suffering from addiction. We get more in this HGP News report.
The newly established drug treatment court is a pilot project working primarily as an adult treatment court utilizing a post-adjudicating model. On Monday, the court was officially commissioned with prominent members of Guyana's judicial system. This is how the drug treatment court will operate. A defendant must plead guilty or be found guilty of an approved offense in order to be eligible to participate in the treatment program that the court will facilitate as an alternative to incarceration. Acting Chancellor of the Judiciary, Justice Yonette Cummings Edwards, in her remarks, further expounded that while the court has its mandate to penalize perpetrators of crimes, it also has another role to find solutions in a bid to reduce the occurrences of crime and also overcrowding in the prisons.
The question in your mind should be, as it was in ours, is what is the solution? How does the court, as part of its function of that of the public control of persons, control those persons who offend? The answer is provided in the treatment courts. Treatment courts have been seen as that vehicle that provides intervention to treat with persons who are living with substance use disorders.
Minister of Legal Affairs and Attorney General Basil Williams shared similar sentiments, but noted that the government acknowledged the importance of a drug treatment court in helping to remedy issues relating to drug abuse.
Through their collaborative efforts, we will be contributing to the effective rehabilitation and reintegration of nonviolent drug offenders suffering from drug addiction. While it is the government's constitutional responsibility to protect its citizens
through initiatives for the effective reduction of crime, it is also their social responsibility to protect disadvantaged persons and to create opportunities for all persons to live a productive life.
Meanwhile, Organization of American States OAS Ambassador to Guyana, Mr. Jean Dormias, congratulated Guyana on its move to establish a drug treatment court. He stated that other OAS countries which made similar moves have benefited positively.
It is really a day of celebration. More than that, the benefits of establishing a drug treatment court serve all the four pillars of the OAS, from the promotion of human rights to strengthening democracy.
The Jamaica Coalition for Tobacco Control on Tuesday called for a ban on the importation and sale of e-cigarettes, warning that the product may cause irreversible lung damage and lung disease. It said in a statement that while the total impact of e-cigarettes on the health is unknown, the use of the devices is associated with lung disease, and secondhand exposure to vaping may also prove harmful. Just last week, the Grenada government said it would restrict the importation, use and sale of e-cigarettes. Ahead in sport, Windward Islands Volcanoes looking to improve on last year's performance in the upcoming regional Super 50 tournament. We'll be right back.
The thing to keep in mind is that when statements like some of the ones in the previous segment were made, I think those make Trump's base excited and they double down on him. So I think it'll have an interesting effect. I don't think it's going to make anybody change their mind.
I think the economy is the key to all this. I don't think it's a coincidence that as we start to whisper about a potential recession, people are really then starting to drum up.
Through the region, across the sea, to the islands all serene, we connect you to all the Caribbean. Happy birthday to Lee. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to Lee. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to Lee.
Windward Islands Volcanoes will be looking to recapture the form that took them to the top 2 years ago when the Colonial Medical Insurance Super 50 Cup opens on November 6th. Heading into the tournament, former fast bowler Andrew Richardson has replaced fellow Jamaican Andre Coley as head coach, and former Volcanoes and West Indies wicketkeeper batsman Junior Murray has been named his assistant. The Volcanoes are in Group B along with last year's beaten finalists and 10-time champions Guyana Jaguars and Trinidad and Tobago Red Force. Also in Group B are the composite West Indies Emerging Players Squad and invitational side United States. Last season, the Volcanoes struggled badly in the competition, finishing second last ahead of Canada in their group. They managed a single win over the Canadians. Richardson says they are looking to put on a strong performance this time around.
My expectations are that we go to the Super 50 with the squad that's selected, and we give a good account of ourselves. We play the game hard, we play the game until the last ball, and we expect to put ourselves in good positions to win as many games as possible. We have quality, we have youth and experience, and with that, we do expect a good showing at the Super 50. As we know, it is cricket, and it's played on the day. As long as we plan
the way we ought to, and we execute those plans, we do expect to be in a good position at the end of the tournament.
He added that the Windward Islands Volcanoes will be focusing on winning.
I mean, winning is the ultimate, right? Last season we finished probably at the bottom, close to the bottom. We do not expect to repeat that sort of performance. I mean, success is winning. If we haven't won the competition, it's not to an extent that we have totally failed, but you know, everybody goes to win, right? And we are definitely coming to win. And as I said, you know, the cricket is played on the day. I wouldn't say if you have lost the competition, you're a failure, but everybody is coming to win, and we are certainly coming to do the same.
Meanwhile, Stuart Williams will lead the Leeward Islands Hurricanes into the tournament. He has taken over from his former Leeward Islands and West Indies teammate Winston Benjamin. Like the Windward Islands Volcanoes, Williams says the Hurricanes want to top last year's performance.
Most of them guys been on the road for a while, you know, playing CPL. You know, they, like I said, they're in Antigua right now playing a tournament, and the actual franchise is based in Sinkit. So, you know, there's nothing like being home. So we hope that the crowds come out and support the guys, and you know, and they accept that. You know, you're gonna get your little criticism sometimes, but that's part and parcel of the game. But we're looking forward to playing some decent cricket this year, and just, you know, like I said, we had an indifferent season last year, and we looking to improve on that for sure.
He says the Hurricanes have lost a few key players, but they will depend on the batsmen to boost their performance.
Well, over the years, our bowling has done well, but looking at this team, like I said, losing Alzari and Hayden Walsh, I think the balance have shifted to the batting. I think with Kyron Powell and Devon Thomas, Monson Hodge, and Jamal Hamilton, you know, I think these were our batting. These were our strength with life.
Still in cricket, Bermuda captain Dion Stovall is lamenting the failure of the top order of his side as the side slipped to the bottom of Group A at the ICC T20 World Cup qualifier in Dubai. Namibia ended a two-match losing streak by beating Scotland by 24 runs on Tuesday to relegate Bermuda to last place. Bermuda lost their 3 opening games against Papua New Guinea, Singapore and Kenya, and they're on the verge of elimination from Group A. They face Namibia on Wednesday, Scotland on Thursday, and Netherlands on Saturday. Following Monday's 45-run defeat against Kenya, Stovall lamented that the players were not applying themselves.
I mean, it's a good possibility, you know. Like I said, you know, I take ownership as skipper as myself. I ain't had enough time at the wicket. Even before Kira is tough at the moment, and I think that's where we're losing games. I think for me, like I said, I feel good in the middle. I just think at times I just try to play too much shots early, or, you know, played one twice in the tournament, and it's just hard luck. It is what it is.
Jamaica's 8-time Olympic medalist Veronica Campbell-Brown is the latest athlete to be honored with a statue. It was unveiled in the capital, Kingston, on Sunday.
It was the third of 4 statues commissioned by the government to pay tribute to some of the country's greatest athletes. But the moment felt extremely special for VCB, since she's mounted next to her idol and mentor Merlene Ottey.
Merlene is such an awesome person. I really admire her. And I'm just grateful to be among Jamaica's rich history, and persons like Merlene has set the pace for all of us who came after her. And so I'm grateful to be here in the Statue Park among these great athletes.
Minister of Sport Olivia Babsy-Grange expressed how great the government felt to acknowledge Campbell-Brown's body of work.
She has carried the flag well. She has been extremely outstanding, being the first in a number of areas and being the only in a number of areas in her achievements in track and field. And so today, we honor her.
VCB skipped this season, becoming a mother in February, enjoying the Doha World Championships from a different view. After watching fellow Jamaican Shelley and Fraser Price grabbing gold, her rival American Allyson Felix and Nia Ali, among others, still soaring after giving birth, she's inspired.
I will see how the season goes for next year. I am back in training right now, and all goes well. I will be on the team for Tokyo. So the biggest hurdle is making the Jamaican team, and so if God have it in store for me to join the Jamaican team in Tokyo, then I will be there. But for now, I'm training, enjoying motherhood, and looking forward to what the future have.
Many will wonder, why not call it quits on such an illustrious career? But Campbell Brown has a different mindset and purpose as she targets the 2020 season.
I'm not chasing anything, but it would be a great accomplishment if I would be able to compete in front of Aviana. Although she may not be able to know what is going on right now, but she will have the memories to look back on and just to motivate her. So we see what next year holds.
And that's the sport. We'll be right back.
You are obviously superheroes, and you're out during the daytime, which is something very interesting. I want to ask you one question. Have you heard of the Imperial Force? And would you be interested in joining the Imperial Force for good and not evil?
Not interested.
Like Star Wars? Like Star Imperial. Yes, it's better than Star Wars, but it's something that's behind the dark side of the moon that we have not found yet, but...
Again, the major developments of this day: an opposition move in Trinidad and Tobago to block the sale of the refinery of former state-owned oil company Petrotrin to a union-owned company. And in sport, Windward Islands Volcanoes looking to improve on last year's performance in the upcoming Regional Super 50 tournament. And that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sports around the clock, subscribe to CondaNews.com. For more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check out our YouTube channel as well. We'll be back here again tomorrow, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and have yourselves a good night.